Hello, welcome back. This is me trying to create a simple game in Unity about pianos being thrown out of a building and we have to catch them and put them in a moving van. So here's where we are so far. We can have our net below and the pianos will get thrown and go into the moving van. Great. Let's make this actually look like a game about pianos and moving vans. We spent a lot of time working on the mechanics, which is what I like to do first. And now I want to add in some pieces. So I have found a number of assets out there that I want to be using. And as I do use these assets, I want to be including some remembering of where I got them from. One of the easiest ways I found to do that is to make a script just called annotations so that I have my references and I can just put them in as comments. So I'm going to say I got the background image from this website. So that looks like a cool background image. I'm going to use it as the city. And we'll paste it in here. The building is going to be from here. I have a piano that I found through Google image search using their content and copyright aware kind of settings. So here's my piano. Let's put that in here. And I have a truck that I'm going to use as my moving van. And then the net, I couldn't find a good one, so I drew one myself in Illustrator. But this way, I will go back to these websites eventually and track down the names, but I have the place where I got them from. So I am not losing all of the attribution and annotation that I should be doing as I'm creating this game with OpenArt. Okay, so what I want to do next is actually put them into my assets. Here we go. I'm going to create a new folder called Sprites. It is the technical name of what we use when we put 2D images on a screen. It is a sprite. So the sprites, I've collected them all, 5 of them here in this folder after I downloaded them, and I'm going to drag them onto, wait a second, I'm going to open up this folder and then drag them into that folder. Great. Unity now recognizes that I have these 5 images and I'm ready to use them as sprites. In older versions of Unity, they didn't come in the right way. You had to format them. It is nice to have them just automatically ready for me to use. So let's go make some things happen here. I want this image to be my background image. It's a little small. I can make it bigger. I can move it around here, stretch it to be the size of my screen, and it's now ready to be used. So if I click on that sprite, I can be moving that individual sprite up to where it needs to go. Perfect. Okay, notice how this added something new, gave it the name of the sprite here in our game objects over here. Let's just call this background. It's going to be easier. And the sprite is based on the name of the file. Goes in here to my sprite spot. It's a little strange. Let me see if I can rearrange this screen a little bit. There we go. Now we can see all the different pieces over here. Okay, so what else do I want? Let's change up the moving van. The moving van is here. It's based on a square sprite. I want to change that. One way to do it is to drag over and put it there and say, whoa, that is enormous. Let's try to shrink that. And number 1, we could shrink it back to a 1-to-1 here. That's still a little too big. let's say 0.4 and 0.4, and I want to be able to select that little image here, shift it over a bit. There's the end of my moving van. Okay, same thing with the building, but instead of going down here and dragging it, another way is to click on the circle here, and then you should be able to find what you're looking for. There's tons of sprites, but it gives you a little search box here, and I could search for building. There we go. Okay, wow, that's big as well because I stretched it. Again, it used to be a square. And if I make it back into an actual building, then I have something that'll be my frame of reference. Let me see if I can zoom in on things again here and try to make this building get bigger how I want it to be. A little bit bigger up here, size it down there, and now we've got a building on the left hand side. Okay, I want the piano. The piano doesn't exist in the scene. I have to open up the prefab and look at it, and here I can select the piano asset. Good. Now again, we always have to check the sizes. This is going to be very, very large as we play the game. We're ready, but whoa, enormous pianos start to show up. And that is not what we were hoping for. Okay, let's change the size of those pianos again. Maybe a 0.3, 0.3. That's a better sized piano. And now we're working on getting those pianos to be moved over into that moving van. Okay, it's a little hard to see what's going on there. Sometimes we want to take our prefab and just drop one on the screen so we can really see what's going on. If you notice here, this is our sprite, but we still had our circle collider be a circle, and it is super tiny. If we shrunk this down to 0.3, 0.3, our circle collider shrunk accordingly. I really want this to get a little bigger. Let's make it so it's about 3, and that's about the space of where I want my pianos to be. Do you see that faint green circle around the piano? That's close enough for a simple game here. And this piano looks a little different than the piano over here in my prefab. And so I have to take this piano that I was able to visually see. See, some of these things are bold. Radius 3. I still want it to be in that same spot over here, but I want to keep my radius of 3. And what I can do is now say I am going to apply this to all of the other prefabs. I changed one of them, and I took my pieces and I changed it in the prefab, and now my prefab says radius of 3. This is good. So now I can delete this one, and let's see if they bounce in the right way for me. Better, much better. Okay, good. Now, notice these pianos are in front of the moving van. It would be nice if the pianos, when they went into the moving van, were behind the moving van. We can do that using the Z aspect of what's going on. So, let's move the van a little bit forward. We can see how that's going to be here. Let's make its Z position -1, and that should make the van, if we watch it when it gets rotated, the van is now in front of the picture. And so as things come along, let's Let's see what happens with our piano. Piano goes behind the moving van. Good. Okay, this is looking better. Now what about our net? Last piece. Let's get the net, get the sprites, put the movers on that spot. Ooh, that looks weird again because of the stretching. And let's make the net a little bit bigger here. We've got the people. I'm going to shift it down, and the bounding box for the collider is based on a square. I want it to fit a little bit closer to what's going on here, and so I'm going to shrink the y value down to say 0.6 or 0.5. I could shift it down a little bit, like -0.1, to give me a bounding box that's just right at the top of the net. Let's see how that looks visually with our pianos falling. We are now trying to catch them, and they bounce right off the top of the net. Good. Okay, these sprites help us change the mechanics and a little bit of the pieces to have it match the images of what's going on. Great. Let's cut it there. That's going to be the last part of this video, adding sprites. And the next video will be adding in the scoring and interactions to keep track of score with a game manager. So thank you for watching. I will have another video soon.